Welcome back, Buttercups. Thank you for joining me today in one of my author writing tips and tricks. And this video is all about how to set up your writing schedule, because that's very important, people. If you want to write professionally, whatever that might mean for you, but if you want to write professionally, you do, I think, in my very humble opinion, need to have some type of writing schedule. Now, what does that mean? The basics for that are having dates and times and chunks of time set aside just for writing. And when you're done with a manuscript, chunks of time depending on the day for editing. Now, I'm just going to go over a few things first that you need to think about before writing schedules, and then I'm going to talk about writing schedules themselves. And the first thing is, what are your writing goals? I'm going to say this so many times, and I say this to every writer I come across. What are your goals for writing? You should figure this out before setting up a writing schedule, because if this is just for fun, then you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. Doesn't really matter, especially if you're just writing for yourself and your friends and you're not even thinking about publishing whatsoever. It's just something that you do. You don't technically need a writing schedule. But if you are a full-time or part-time writer, you're going to need to write at least every other day for at least 20 minutes, give or take, as an indie author. Yes, as an indie author. With exceptions, of course, but as quite a few indie writer focused websites have come to find, specifically Written Word Media does a lot of polling for indie writers, and it has turned out that on average indie writers publish 3 books a year. That is to make enough on average to live off of, and I forget the exact number before taxes, but it's around like 50,000 or 60,000 within those lines. But then again, it also depends on where you live, because if you're like, let's say in West Virginia, you can live off of $40,000 depending where you are. So average, generalized, but I am putting that in because it is important that on average, it's about 3 books per year published for indie authors to have a comfortable life on their works. And that can definitely be hard and tiring. And I'm only at 2 books a year as a part-time author, because I have 2 other jobs. So don't be discouraged. Definitely don't be discouraged, because one of the biggest reasons that writers can publish that many books is scheduling their writing time. Bringing it all back, people. Number 2, the next question to ask is, how fast do you write and even also edit, but for this writing the first draft? Can you write every day, every few days, and for how long can you write without burning out? Because we don't want you to burn out. That is how you go 6 months to a year, or like maybe even give up because you're pushing yourself so hard. Like you have to do every single day for half of the day, because some famous people do that, but that's them, not you. So what can you do? What can you handle enough that it is comfortable but also productive and successful, and you feel good about it and you're having a fun time? What does that look like? Because burnout is detrimental to your writing and being a part-time or full-time author. Let's say you write 3 days a week for 2 hours per day versus pushing yourself to write every single day for 5 hours or 8 hours, because you're thinking that it has to be like a 8 to 5 job with an hour not paid lunch. I know some writers, like I said, can do that, but many can't. So you need to determine what you can do. And it's good to hear other people and definitely try stuff out. But if something is too much for you and you feel utterly exhausted with that schedule that other people are doing that you have tried out, then you need to reassess. Now, number 3, from all those questions, then you can create a writing schedule. And what would that look like for you specifically? Now, for me, for just an example, I write 3 to 4 days a week for 2 hours max. I join writing sprints either on YouTube or, because I'm part of Brian Cohen's ad school, they have what they call page pals, and the times that I can go to them based on my time zone are 3 days a week, and they run for 2 hours in length. So look, it's perfect. I will only do writing related work, including marketing, but you don't have to include marketing, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. That's my schedule. If for some reason I work on a weekend, then I'll move my second weekend days off to a weekday. So for example, if I somehow decide to work on a Saturday and a Sunday, I will take off Monday and Tuesday from anything writing related, including marketing stuff. Or if I write a bunch of words on Sunday because I'm just inspired, but I don't work on Sunday, then on Monday I'm going to take off because I worked on Saturday. I am only working 5 days a week. I need to have 2 days off. Some people can do 1 day. Some people need 4 days off. It's going to really depend on what you can handle. And there might be a few months or maybe like a year, whichever, that you settle into and you discover that writing schedule. But it's really important to get to that point where you are comfortable where you are and you're hitting your goals as well, so you don't burn out and you don't have imposter syndrome and you don't feel overwhelmed, because all that makes people give up or take really long breaks, and that's more problematic than having to write only 3 days a week for 1 hour. But you're getting in enough books for your schedule and for your goals to feel like you're being a successful writer. Now, if you're wanting to publish more than 3 books a year and like they're more than 60,000 words, you're going to have to write at least 4 days, if not 5 days, for at least 2 hours, if not 3 to 4 hours. But that's, like I keep saying, it's gonna depend. What can you handle? And then if that means you can't handle that writing load, then you might not be able to publish 3 books a year, but maybe you can publish 2 books and a novella. So there's always wiggle room. So don't feel like you have to do something because other people are doing it. That's not the case. You can figure it out. It's a lot of trial and error. I finally got to where I am with 2 books a year because of a lot of work and burnout and imposter syndrome and just feeling exhausted, until I realized through the ad school, you need to pace yourself, sweetie. Please do that, or else things are going to go downhill and your writing is not going to be as good as it is if you're refreshed. Your marketing, even like your presence, can also be affected. Like, I remember a long time ago, I was trying to push myself to write every single day for at least an hour a day, and I could not do anything else. I would fall asleep at like 6 p.m. and that not only was affecting the writing and the marketing, but it was also affecting my personal life as well, because falling asleep at 6 p.m. What else are you doing? But my brain was so exhausted, it could not function. And I thought I was doing it correctly, but for me, it was not. I could not write that much almost every single day. And how do you track your writing schedule? Now, it's going to be different for everyone, but I track my writing days on my phone's calendar, and that might not work for you, because I check my phone's calendar all the time because I forget stuff fairly easily. I don't want to forget appointments. So they're like appointments on my phones, but they're not reminders. But maybe for you, you need a journal, like a writing journal or a scheduler. What are those things called? Scheduler? I'm gonna go with that. Maybe you need sticky notes. Maybe you need actual phone reminders that ding or play a sound to remind you. But how that is going to work is in the beginning, you're going to try setting up the habit. It takes a couple months to undo old habits and to replace them with new habits. So once you get in like 3, maybe 4 months of this writing schedule, you won't necessarily need to have reminders. I do because I've got ADD, and that could be also another factor you need to put into this thought process of a writing schedule. If you forget that you have a writing schedule, or you're just really, really busy and you can't have one that is consistent, maybe it's kind of consistent, or maybe you just can't really do consistency more than like a week or 2, then I would definitely schedule reminders. And then if you can only look at your schedule for 2 weeks out of a month, I would schedule those 2 weeks and then recalibrate and see what you can do after those 2 weeks, because maybe your boss does weird scheduling for your work and they only do it out a couple weeks at a time and not consistently or anything like that. I've been there before. So that would be something where you kind of do have to update it. But for people that don't have that type of work and it's consistent, like my full-time job is consistent. So I can say 3 days a week for 2 hours a day minimum, that's going to happen on these days and between these times. Now I will add a day if there is a friend of mine doing a productivity writing sprints, and those usually go from 2 to 3 hours. And if that is during a Saturday or Sunday, then I will take a Monday/Tuesday off just to balance things out. So this is pretty individualized. You might have to think this through more than just a couple minutes. It took me years. So I'm making this video so you don't have to take years. But for what I have right now, it's going very well. And finally, be open to change your writing schedule if it's not working for you. Like I said, as an artist, you're going to have to learn and accept pivoting when needed, especially if you're an indie writer. That doesn't mean you're a failure. I want you to remember that. You're not a failure if your writing schedule, how you planned it, doesn't work out. It just means that you need to mix things up a bit. You need to brainstorm. You need to find something else or find out what you can and can't do during this time. Just because something worked 5 years ago or even 6 months ago does not mean that under the current circumstances that you are in right now, that's going to work. And it's perfectly acceptable. Life is a roller coaster and we're on for the ride, people. But always remember to take some time to reflect on what your goals are. Have fun as well. And just try new things. Give things a go. See if it works. If it doesn't, then pivot. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great writing day. Bye.